Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. As you know, I really like questions. I love to answer questions. I like the spontaneity of people asking me questions and I just search out and find the answers. I've always liked to do that. And a question came up on one of the last two shows I had, and it had to do with writing music. And sometimes when you write music, you have the stem of a note pointing down. Sometimes you have the stem of the note pointing up. Sometimes you have one flag or two flags. What does all of that mean, and how should you be drawing it? There's no hard and fast rule except as it matches the time. You have to have the timing right of it, but there's no hard and fast rule. But I want to show you some ways how this is done. So if we can take a look at this chart here, then I can explain it. Okay, good. This is a whole note. It's just a round and clear note. Now there are only two notes that are really clear like that. The whole note, which is usually 4 beats, but it's going to be whatever the measure says it is. If I write a song and it's in 3/4 time, then it's going to be 3 beats. If I write a song and it's in 6/4 time, which is unlikely, but certainly it can be done, then it's going to be 6 beats. If I put a dot beside it and it's 4/4 time, this is going to be 6 beats anyway, because if it's 4/4 time, which it usually is, this gets 4 beats. And a dot is half the value of what the note is, and so 4 beats, the half a value would be 2 beats, so if I put a dot by it, it would be 6 beats. That's a whole note. This is a half note, and it's also clear. Now, how do I draw them? The whole note will have no stems, no flags, no nothing. The half note has just a stem. The body of the note is the round note itself. Then you have the stem, and that's what goes up or down. It can be done either way. And then if you have little flags on it, little markings on it, those are flags. So whole note, half note. This is a half note, and it's with the stem going up. This is a half note with the stem going down. Does it make any difference? It really doesn't make any difference in terms of the value of the note. So I'll show you when it's done. When do you make a stem go up or down? Here's an 1/8 note. This is the body of the note. Here's the stem. It has 1 flag, and we're going to double it for every kind of note. So here's a 16th note. It has the body of the note with the stem and 2 flags. It's just double the 1/8. Now, if you want to double it further, here's your 32nd note, and it has 3 flags on it. That's double the 16th. Or you could have the 64th note, which is double the 32nd, and it's got the body of the note and 4 flags. Now, there are different ways that you can draw the flags. If you look up here, here's my 8th note. It's got the body of the note, the stem, and 1 flag. But I can draw it and have the stem go down on the left and the flag on the bottom. It doesn't matter at all how you do it in terms of the value of the note. It's where it appears on the staff that makes the difference, because you put it in such a way that it's going to be easy to read. So here we have an 8th note, a 16th note. A 16th note is always going to be 2 flags. A 32nd note is always going to be 3 flags. A 64th note is always going to be 4 flags. I have it written down. I had with the stems going up, and here I have the stems going down. This would be higher up on the staff, and it would be easier to read it if they put the stem down, and it wouldn't be hanging way out of the staff. Now, if you look at this, this is an 8th note. There are 2 of them tied together, and that line across is the flag, and it's the flag for both of them. So these are 2 1/8 notes. I could draw them 2 separate notes with each with their individual stems and flags, but if I want to put them together, I just put them together. They do have their individual stems, and that one line is the flag that goes between them. It indicates that they are both 1/8 notes. If I want to do 16th notes, well, here's just your 2 bodies, the body of the notes. The stems go down and you have two flags. When you have two flags, that's always a 16th note. It's the equivalent of two of these right here, which is also a 16th note. If I want to do a 32nd note, I can put the two notes together, the stems are individual, and have 3 lines, and it connects them together, but they're both 32nd notes. If I want 64th notes, I add another flag. 1, 2, 3, 4, with the note bodies, the stems, and those are the flags for both of them. I can write them up. Here's your 8th notes and 1 flag, so they're both 8th notes. They're just connected together, just like these two are right here. But when I wrote these in, I have them, the stems going down, and on this I have the stems going up. When the stems go up, you usually put the stem on the right side of the note. When the stems go down, you usually put them on the left side of the note. Now, it's not going to make any difference in terms of the value of the note, but this is the way it's usually done, and you get very familiar with it, and it makes it easier to read. So here's your 8th, here's your 16th, here's your 32nd, 3 of the flags, here's your 64th, 4 of the flags, and you only have the whole note and the half note that are clear. When you get to the quarter note, it's blackened in, and every other note is also blackened in. So the only clear ones you're going to get is one whole note in which there is no stem, it's only the body of the note, or the half note, which is only it's got a stem but no flags on it. Everything else is going to be blackened in. Now, to go on the rest, you know, music has rests in it. There are places where you do not play. This is going to be the 8th rest that almost looks a little bit like an elongated comma or something. That's the 8th rest. The 16th rest has 2 flags on it, just like the notes do. And the 32nd has 3 notes on the flag, just like it would if it were a regular note. And then the 64th has 4. And this is one whole rest right here for 1 beat. So you get 1 beat, 8th, 16th, 32nd, and 64th. Those are the rest. Now, where do you put them? Well, let me show you another page here. It's the location of them of the notes on the staff that determine in which direction the stems actually go. So here's a quarter note, blackened in, 1 stem, and I put the stem to the left and down because it's higher up on the staff. If it's higher up on the staff, likely it will go down. Now you notice I put these up. It really doesn't make that much difference. It depends upon whether the ease of reading it. If I were to write some notes underneath it, say that would be a harmony part. This isn't music, I just wrote the notes on. It's not a song or anything. If I had a bunch of notes down here, I would have to put them up, and you can read them fairly easily, but you might be able to read them more easily if, because they're higher up, I put the stems down. As I say, it really doesn't make that much difference, and there's no hard and fast rule, so I actually wanted to do it both ways. These are higher up from C, D, and E. The flags are down, the stems are down, and the flag connecting them. These would be the same thing, but they're not connected, but they're still 8th notes, but instead of connecting them together, I made them individual with their own stems and flags. Here's a series of 4. It is not unusual to see a series of 4 8th notes, and they're all connected by 1 flag, but it means that they're all 8th notes. If the flag only went this far, this would not have been an 8th note. It would probably be a quarter, but they're all linked together. Here are 4, and I have the stems going down. down, and they're all connected with one line. That means they're all eighth notes because there's one line. If I wanted 2 lines, they would be 16ths. If I wanted 3 lines, they'd be 32nds. If I wanted 4 lines, they'd be 64th. Now, here's one note. It's a high E. The stem goes down on the left. Here's a low E. The stem goes up on the right. That's kind of just the traditional way to do it. Here you have the high E going down, and you have a low E also going down. Normally that would go up, but I linked it together. And because I linked it together with one flag, then it can be written this way, no problem. And this goes up, and this goes up. This could go down, but I don't have it down because I've linked them together with a flag, and so therefore that's the easiest way to do it. So as you can see, there's no real way that you have to do it. Here is a quarter note, one stem, and it's down. Why would I have it down? Well, I just put it down there for you to see it, but if I had a note above it, so it was a harmony, or there was a harmony involved, then the note above it would automatically go up, and this would go down. Here's the same E with the stem going up. Here's a C, the stem goes down, and you have 16th notes. This is a 16th note because it has 2 flags. This goes up, and the stem goes up, and you have 2 flags. That's a 16th note as well. So high notes, usually the flag will be on the left as it is here. Lower notes, usually the flag is on the right like it is here. It doesn't make that much difference. It does look a little awkward though. If you do get the stem on the wrong side of it, it doesn't look quite right because it's not written that way usually, and so therefore it just looks like it's out of place. Now, high A, stem down, low C, stem up on the right, and this is a D, and the stem is down on the left, and then you have 2 notes together. This is a C, and this is a D, and you have them together. So how do you do it? You can put one note right on top of the other and use one stem for both of them. They don't have to have a separate stem because they're attached together. And of course you have this note, which is an A, and you have a stem down and a stem up. So how could you do that? Well, it would be an A. Actually, this is a middle C. This is a middle C because I'm thinking about the lower and the higher staff. So can I put them on both sides? Yes. For a middle C, the stem is going down on the left, and on the right, it's going up as a treble. It's going down on the left because it can be used as a bass note, and it goes up on the right because it can be used as a treble note. So if I were to see this alone, without anything, I would say that was an A, because it just has that one. If I was using this as the main staff, and this staff didn't exist, and I just had this note and no stem going up, that would be an A. You know, this would be a G below it, this would be an A, and then we would have a B above it if you wrote it in. But if I take these 2 together, this is in the middle between the lower and the higher staff, between the bass and the treble staff. And so therefore you can have that note in the middle, and you can put the stem in either direction. It's going to be the highest note of the lower staff. It's going to be the lowest note of the higher staff, and this is why we have the middle C. The middle C is both a treble and a bass note. It can be both. When I first started talking about that, I just thought of it as being attached to the staff. So here's an A, it's a whole note. Here's an A, here's a half note, stem to the right. And then here you have the stem on the A. These are all A's, quarter, eighth note, and 16th. It's hard for you to see it, but there is a second flag in there, and then you go to the 32nd. And if I wanted to add more, I could add more. So how high can you go? Well, as far as we're concerned, we're not going to get past the 16th notes. because that's fast enough for what you might want to do in a beginning class. But difficult music can have 64th notes, and they might even go beyond that. But 64th is probably about as high as you would ever see in most of the music. So what does it mean? Well, you can actually put the stem down or up, whichever you prefer. Usually if you're going to write it down, you're going to put it on the left, or if you're going to write it up, you're going to put it on the right, like this has it right here, like all of these have it. And these go down, so the stems are to the left. There's no hard and fast rule about it, but usually the higher you get, the stems go down on the left because it's easier to read. But I just want to show that and answer that question. Now, when I came in last time, I had made a little, and I want to get into this a little bit too. I had made a little tube, and there goes my baton. Let me put it right here. And what I did, whoops, this is the top part, and I thought it might be helpful in learning how to finger some notes if you're not familiar with the notes. I made it so the left goes on top, and since the left goes on top, you can see the lettering to the right. And since the right goes on the bottom, you can see the lettering on the left. And it's so you would know what these thumb holes, or what these holes really play. The thumb hole, of course, is in the back and is used for octave, but these tone holes, what do they actually play? What notes do they actually play? So I made this out, and I suggested that if it would help you, you could do that. And it would be not a problem. It might help you to learn the position of your fingers and the tone holes and what notes they actually play. So what I did is I did it again, but I did it on a flat surface. So here's your recorder. This is exactly the same as the one I did with the tube, except I did put a little kind of mouthpiece arrangement of it, and I put a little bell on it. This is the top. This is the bottom. Left hand goes on top, right hand goes on the bottom. If you look at this, the tone hole here, you play a B with it. The tone hole now, below it, can play the A, the C, and the D, and the tone hole below that plays a G. And for all of those notes, the thumb hole in the back, which I drew over here, that thumb hole remains closed. Then, and I'm only doing one octave here, although it's easy to show you a second octave, which I may do. On the right hand, the F goes right here, the E goes right here, and this note here, this tone hole here, is part of a D, but it also can be played, use it in playing an F if the instrument needs to have it because it's a Baroque. And then you usually have two little holes as one. There's usually one bigger hole, but it's composed of two holes within it, and that's going to be the low C, and it's set off to one side because you couldn't stretch your finger to reach it any other way. So the holes are positioned in such a way that people can actually reach it. So if you wanted to do something like this, just draw it out, and remember, this is B, and it's going to stay closed when you play the A, and it's going to stay closed as you play the G. B, A, G. You just keep them down. But if you're going to play the C, these have got to be uncovered, and this is the only one that goes down, and that is your C. And then, and always you see you've got your back thumb hole closed. But if you want to play a D, which this one can do, everything goes up, including the back tone hole, and you get the D. So if I'm going to demonstrate that as I am now on the recorder, you know, here's your G, A, B, do a flip, this gets to be the C, and to get the D, lift out the thumb, and there you've got it. Now, there are some alternate fingerings that I sometimes use. The alternate fingerings are good because I might be able to play something that's very difficult, like Handel's Messiah, which I do, and I may just use an alternate fingering to catch a note and finger it in a little easier way than what the regular fingering is. I always want to teach you the correct fingerings, but sometimes if you know the alternate fingerings, it can be very helpful to you. Whether you play the alternate fingerings or not depends upon whether your instrument can handle the pitch or not. If the instrument can't handle an alternate fingering because the pitch is off, then you wouldn't use it. But some instruments are very good, and you can actually use other fingerings that sometimes I just make up, and then you are able to play notes in an easier way. So here's my C. Here's the D. Here's my alternate fingering. This is the way the flute plays it. And so therefore, sometimes I can use the alternate fingering. The better the recorder, the more it is able to handle those alternate fingerings. So if you want to draw something out like this, for the F, E, D, and sometimes you use this for the D too. So here we go, F, E, D, and sometimes you have an extra finger for an F depending upon whether it's a Baroque instrument or not. And to go from that low D to the high D, you use a different fingering. There are various ways of doing it, and I like to teach students all of those ways because you can play a lot of music on a recorder. And so we are just about out of time, so I'm going to close it here. And for the next session, I'm going to show you the pictures of the instruments that actually exist for the orchestras and bands and so forth. So therefore, that's what we will be doing next time. Please join me then.